and welcome to this month's installment of Park Place Views, brought to you by the City of Janesville and JATV Media Services. This program aims to keep Janesville residents informed by highlighting the people, places, projects in the City of Janesville. On last month's episode, we talked with City Engineer Mike Payne about current and upcoming construction projects within Janesville. If you want to watch any previous Park Place Views episodes, they are available to watch on the city's website or JATV's YouTube page. On this month's episode, we'll be talking with Police Chief David Moore about what's going on in the Janesville Police Department. Welcome to the show, Chief Moore.
Thank you.
Chief Moore began his law enforcement career in 1977 with the Janesville Police Department. He holds a bachelor's degree from Mount Scenario College in criminal justice administration and a master's degree in public corporate communication from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. After a national search, he was appointed police chief in April of 2009. He is a graduate of the FBI National Academy and Northwestern University's School of Police Staff and Command. Chief Moore is a lifelong Janesville resident and is active in many community groups, including Janesville Morning Rotary. Before we get started, Chief Moore, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Oh gosh, I tend to spend as much time with my family as I can, although
Good.
Both of our children are off on their own careers, so our time together is a little less limited. But when I have some free time, I'm a private pilot, so I enjoy flying.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
And I can tell you that Janesville is very beautiful at nighttime when we fly over the top.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Okay, very cool. So let's get into the questions here. So the first one I have for you is, one of the exciting new programs that we've been hearing about is the work the department is doing with mentally ill individuals in our community. Can you talk about how this program works and why it's a priority for us?
Sure. We have police officers that are using deadly force throughout this nation, and oftentimes it ends up being with persons that are mentally ill. Now, the officer doesn't know that in that encounter. All the officer knows is the level of threat that is before him. So as we tracked that national trend, that was concerning to us. And we've had some local incidents that were concerning to us as well. I can tell you of an example down on South Main Street a few years ago here. Our officers were sent to a call of a disturbance or a loud noise in an apartment. That's all they knew. When they knocked on the door, they were met by a very large male. He had no clothes on, and he was covered in blood. And he immediately started a fight with the officers. Well, we were fortunate. We were able to take him into custody using a taser. We didn't have to use any deadly force. But what we found out later on was that this gentleman was under the care of some mental health professionals in our community. And that information would have helped the officers on their response to know before they knocked on that door what they were getting into. We also learned afterwards that this gentleman had just murdered his neighbor across the hall. And so it could have been a very tough situation for us. We were successful in taking him into custody and getting him some help, but it was that example and others that caused us to realize that if we had better information about the mental illness of individuals in our community, we could serve them better. It would be safer for our community members, and it would be safer for our officers. So I challenged our officers to go out and find the 10 or 15 persons that suffered from mental illness in our community and pose the biggest threat to us and community members. So they started down that journey. And our intent was to build a relationship with these individuals, help them in their times of need, but most importantly, when they are in crisis, that they would look upon a police officer and a police officer in uniform as someone that is there to help them and not a threat.
Right.
And with the intent of avoiding the whole use of force. So as we started that, some of our professionals in the community, mental health professionals, were concerned about this approach, and rightly so, because they had already started some programming with the individuals and they didn't want us to disrupt it. So we kind of changed our view a bit, and we have been working very closely with the mental health professionals in our community. And we are now starting to exchange information and build crisis plans for these folks in our community that need the help. We can help the mental health professionals because we can identify people that are perhaps not using their medication the way they should, or they're coming into times of crisis, and we can get them help. And how it would help our officers is we will know, hopefully beforehand, if we're entering into a circumstance with a mentally ill person and what may work. Just by way of example, we have one woman in this community that tends to go out in public, make herself look like a homeless person, and becomes disorderly and encounters the officers because people call us about her. Well, she was often entering the criminal justice system because she would be arrested and oftentimes fight with the officers. Well, once we develop this exchange of information, the crisis plan is to simply tell her to go home and her fridge is full. So now when the officers meet her in the public and she's causing a problem, we just tell Sue to go home because her fridge is full, and she turns around and leaves. So we avoid the whole confrontation, and we don't enter the criminal justice system with this person. So that's the reason behind it, and we're making some improvements. We think this could be system-wide in our community, and we look for good things to come.
Okay, good to hear. Next question for you is, so last summer you started several programs in the city's central neighborhoods. Can you talk about these programs and whether or not they'll continue for us in 2016?
Yeah, we have two central neighborhoods, our Fourth Ward and Look West neighborhoods, and those are very important to our community. And here's why. If we allow crime and disorder in those neighborhoods, all of Janesville will be viewed as being crime-ridden.
Right.
If we are successful in these neighborhoods, all of Janesville will be looked upon as being safe. So we put a lot of work into these neighborhoods, and we go about trying to build as much trust as we can, and we try and keep them as crime-free and orderly as we can. Last year we started a couple of pilot projects that did very well, and we wish to continue them this year. One is we broke the Fourth Ward neighborhood into small neighborhood groups, we call them, SNGs. We recognized that taking on the whole Fourth Ward as one neighborhood was tough, and we weren't making the inroads that we wanted to. So geographically, we broke it down into smaller groups, and we've been interacting with those smaller groups. And one of the ways that we've had some success is we have a neighborhood cookout. We'll come into this neighborhood, we'll shut down the streets, we'll bring in officers and grills and games for the kids, and we're able to have about a 2-hour cookout. We meet with all of these citizens, and we're able to meet with people that don't necessarily trust the police.
Right.
They don't necessarily trust government. And in this method, we're able to, in a non-confrontational way, have dialogue with these folks, build that trust, and ask them for the help that we could use.
Mm-hmm.
That if you see things in your neighborhood that need police attention, give us a call.
Right.
So that's one of the efforts. We also did Operation Porch Light last year, and our officers went door to door and installed high-efficiency light bulbs. It did two things. It allows us to offer better lighting in the neighborhood at night, and it again afforded us the opportunity to build a relationship with that citizen and build that trust. So those are the two of the programs. Another thing that we have done is Sergeant Todd Kleisner is coordinating all of the services in these neighborhoods. We didn't coordinate them as well as we could, and we've got one supervisor that oversees these neighborhoods. He's very successful at it, and knows all of the neighbors, knows all the officers that are assigned, and we're just able to coordinate our services better. So we had good success with those programs last year. We'll continue those this next year. But next week, we're going to have a meeting with a lot of the neighborhood leaders, and we're going to ask them, what can we do to be more effective? And we hope that there'll be some good suggestions, and if they're viable and don't cost us a lot of money, we'll move forward with those as well.
Okay. And then looking towards the future, are there any new programs that you're going to implement this summer?
No, I think we had good success last year, and again, we're just going to continue on with those small neighborhood groups, Operation Porch Light. We intend to extend up into the Look West neighborhood, and we'll just keep Sergeant Kleisner in charge and on top of all the activities in those neighborhoods.
Right, okay. So to go along with another event that you guys have been having, the Coffee with the Cops, that's been going on a few times now. I think there's been 2 so far.
Yeah, we've had 2 of those, and this is more of a national event. You'll hear about it around the nation in different communities, and I looked at the science of it, and the science supports this event. It's simple, it's cost effective.
Okay.
We just simply advertise a day that I can be at a restaurant or a coffee shop someplace, and I can bring in other people, and we have a chance to meet with citizens. So it only takes a few hours of our time, and again, it allows us that opportunity to build relationships with people in our community and to build that trust. We've had 2 events so far. The most recent was down here at Hedberg Library.
Mm-hmm.
The turnout has been reasonable. You know, we've seen between 10 and 20 people come down.
Okay.
But we intend to continue it. We think it's of value, and again,
Good.
it's all about building trust.
Right, right. Okay, so prior to the April presidential primary election, there were a lot of national attention on Janesville with 4 of the 5 candidates holding rallies in our city. Can you talk to us about how the JPD plans for big events like this?
Well, first of all, who would have thought that 4 presidential candidates would come to Janesville within 11 days?
Right, yeah.
That's not
absolutely.
something we anticipated, but we moved forward and took care of security for them. Depending on the candidate, it affected our planning. By way of example, Mr. Trump, it took us 350 officers to properly provide security and freedom of speech. And probably the freedom of speech is the bigger piece of that. But it took us 350 officers to attend that event. We ran out of officers. We probably should have brought in 375, because at one period in time we had everybody online and we didn't have any reserves. So we got through it okay, but we really could have used 375. But with Mr. Cruz and Mr. Kasich, we were able to provide the safety and freedom of speech issues with about 25 officers.
Okay.
So it depends on venue, it depends on the candidate,
Right.
and we respond accordingly. Our staff is very well trained at these large events. They have systems in place to provide the safety for it. So I really rely on my staff
Right.
to build those plans and staff them accordingly.
Okay. And then overall, how do you feel the department and other responding agencies handle these events this year?
Well, perhaps I'll refer to the feedback we got. We received many compliments from the Secret Service. We received many compliments from the candidates' staff that oversee these
Good.
things. We were told that it went as smooth as it's gone in any community, and we received many compliments from the many agencies that helped us build the plan and staff it. So aside from my own opinion, I'll rely on those compliments and feedback and say that it went well.
Right, and that's definitely a compliment towards the JPD.
I would like to think so, yes.
Okay, so I know that Janesville was ahead of the curve in providing officers with body cameras. Today, all sworn officers wear body cameras while performing their work. How have these body cameras affected interactions with citizens?
Yeah, we're probably on about our 4th generation of body camera. We've been at it for, I would guess, close to 10 years. So it's nothing new to us. Our officers are very accepting of it. I can tell you when we first rolled them out, we got a little pushback because it was monitoring the officers at every moment. But I can tell you that once there was a few citizen complaints and there was these allegations that the officers did something improper,
Mm.
and we could just simply bring up that video
Right.
and show the citizen, and the complaint went away. We had officers knocking on the door wanting them. They wanted those body cameras. We had our school officers coming forward and say, look, we want those
Yeah.
body cameras. They're expensive, and not so much for the purchase of the body cameras, but the storage of the data.
Right.
And we tried sharing cameras for a while, and that really didn't work out very well in terms of tracking whose video goes to which officer. So through a process of grants and federal forfeiture money, we've been able to purchase enough body cameras for every officer on the department.
Okay.
If you're out in the field, and you encounter an officer, there's about a 98% chance, that officer's gonna have a body camera
Right.
on him or her. But as far as its effect with citizen contacts, the only time I hear that it affects the free flow of information or that interaction is when a citizen or a suspect is coming close to getting involved with a physical fight with the officer, and the officer announces that, just so you know, we're recording this. It
Mhm.
tends to have a calming effect, and these people tend to behave and be compliant with the arrest or what the
Mhm.
officer's saying. So it's having a very good effect.
Okay. And as far as the body cameras work, are they only on when they're interacting with citizens, or is it for their whole shift?
No, the officers can turn them on and off.
Okay.
The general rules that we have is that anytime you're taking an enforcement action, an arrest, or if you think it may involve a citizen complaint,
Okay.
that they should have them on.
Okay. Good to hear. We continue to see heroin be a problem in our community and nationally as well. Last time you were on this program, you talked about the department's DROP program. Now, I understand we have a new program where you're targeting prevention efforts in schools. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's actually an extension of the DROP program, which is the death, rehab, or prison is what it stands for, because
Right.
that's probably the three outcomes you're going to see with this terrible drug. And we know to a large degree how young people come to be heroin users. And they don't wake up in the morning and decide, I'm going to try heroin today. It generally starts in high school or shortly thereafter, and kids are experimenting with opiate prescribed drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And they very quickly become dependent on that prescribed drug. And then because of cost or availability, they no longer can obtain the drug. And to feed that habit, to feed that addiction, they move over to heroin, and then they continue on with this heroin addiction. So we know how it presents itself. And so what we have done is we partnered with the Janesville School District, and we brought our drop officer in, Officer Woodman is who works this program. And he brought in some recovered heroin addicts. And they were graduates of Craig High School and Parker High School. And the officer is able to tell what he's seeing in the community, but then he's also able to bring in this young person that can very persuasively explain to young people how easy it is to become hooked on it,
Mm-hmm.
and what the outcomes are and how tough it is to get off of it. So I'm told that these presentations are very moving, and our hope is that we're getting to a targeted group of people, our students, our kids, and getting the message out of just how tough this addiction is.
Right, right. And then to go along with that, you kind of talked about how it starts at a young age. Is there anything that parents or grandparents can do when there's perhaps old prescribed drugs laying around or things like that?
Yeah, another leg of this effort is to get rid of the prescription drugs that are sitting around at homes, because that's what tends to get in kids' hands, and that's what tends to get distributed, and that's how they become hooked on these drugs.
Right.
So we have a drop-off box down at the Janesville Police Department, and if you've got drugs that you are no longer using, bring them down, drop them off. We'll see that they are properly disposed of. But that's another important point of this whole addiction issue, is to get rid of those unused drugs in our community.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to move on, I know your officers got a really neat opportunity recently to train on de-escalation of force using a simulator. Can you talk about how that went for them?
Yes. If you've been watching what's been going on nationally, police are under fire, and I don't mean that in a humorous way. but for use of force. We're being held accountable, and rightfully so, on use of force. So we wanted to provide a skill set for our officers of de-escalation. So we may end up in an encounter that starts out with deadly force, but we want to build a skill set for officers where they can de-escalate, perhaps go from deadly force to simply talking with someone. And we thought the best way to do that is in a simulated environment.
Right.
We learned of Gander Mountain up in DeForest, Wisconsin. They have a high-tech 300-degree room that you can go into, and it really puts the officer right in the middle of scenarios. And we can walk them through those scenarios live time, and they've got to make tough decisions. And depending on how the officer responds, our trainers can adjust the scenario. So if the officer is doing a good job in de-escalating and bringing the person down from a deadly force incident, the trainers can adjust the scenario, and the officer will be successful in simply talking the person through. So it's just some skills that we want to develop. You know, if all we train is our officers how to use deadly force, that's what you can expect out in the field. But if we train on how to de-escalate and use those talking skills, or perhaps a taser or a nightstick or OC spray, we'll end up with those results too. So it's a training piece.
Right. Okay, it's good to hear. So I know the department recently launched a fundraising campaign for a new canine unit as well. How's that going?
Very well. We have had two canines for many years. Both of them are at the end of their service or their duty for us. One is retired, and we recently has passed away. Another one is, if you will, on limited duty, just because of the spine and the illness that this dog is suffering from. So we need to replace both our dogs. Our community has been wonderful on this endeavor. The last dog, we had one citizen that came forward and paid for the entire dog and the training, which runs about $16,000. We're in the process of replacing our second dog, and the vehicles we have are old and are near their end of life cycle. And the vehicles we have, the Impalas, they aren't the greatest vehicles for dogs. A small SUV is a better vehicle for the dogs. So we've taken on a fundraiser to pay for one dog and two SUVs. So it's a big deal. But this community has been wonderful. Right to date, we've got about $68,000 that the community has offered. And we have about another $16,000 to go, and we'll meet our goal of having two very nice vehicles for the dogs and one new canine. So it's going very well, and we expect good things.
Yeah, and then where can people donate? Is it online somewhere?
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe page that you can donate, or just get a hold of the police department. Just call our non-emergency number or Sergeant Dean Sukas at the department, and we'll anxiously accept your donation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, to move on, a great opportunity for young people to learn about the police department is going through the Explorer Post. What kind of training do these students go through, and how do they help out within the community?
Right, we've had an Explorer Post here for a few years, and really a number of our police officers wanted to provide this service, and they volunteer their time for the Explorer Post. They get considerable training, whether it's use of force or how to converse with people and understanding the policies and procedures of the police department. So they really get a wide array of training and really prepare these individuals for police service. These young individuals wish to be police officers. They'll have a great resume coming out of our Explorer program. And also, one of the interests of our Explorer program is to change the diversity of the Janesville Police Department. We feel that if we can reach out to persons of minority in the high school setting, welcome them into the police department, train them, connect them with the police department, want to be a Janesville police officer, that when they go off to college and get their degree, they'll want to come back and be a part of our organization. So
Yeah,
that's another
awesome.
focus of that Explorer program.
Okay. So last thing that I have for you today is rapid fire questions. You were on this show last time, so you know how
Yeah.
that works. Okay. So I have 3 questions for you, and you just have to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So. First thing is, what is your morning routine before work?
Well, when I explain my morning routine, I will not admit to you how early I go to bed at night. But I
Pretty early, huh?
Yeah, I get up at 4 a.m., quick check my emails and see what's going on at work. And then I head out on a 2-mile run walk. It used to be a run, now it's a combination of both a run and
Okay.
a walk. Come back home, I have some other exercises that I need to do. And then breakfast, and I try and be at work by about 6:30 in the morning. You know, we're a 24/7 operation, so I like to be in there during those third shift officers, so if they have questions that we're available.
Right. Okay, so next question is, where do you like to go on your work break lunch in Janesville?
Well, I'm pretty boring there. I just tend to go home, and if it's a
Yeah.
day that my wife is off, I get another half hour with my wife.
Oh, that's nice.
But
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty boring in that arena. Maybe I should take her out to lunch more.
Yeah, maybe. All right, third and final question for you is, what is one tip that you have for new officers at the JPD?
That's interesting. We just swore 5 police officers in this week.
Right, right.
And my message to them was that your career is what you make it.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you cross the threshold of the Janesville Police Department each day and think that you're going to have an unfulfilling, lousy day, that's what you will find.
Mhm.
But if you cross that same threshold and think that you will have an important, fulfilling, and good day, you'll find that too. So it's really up to these individual officers what they want out of their careers.
Mhm.
That perspective on a daily basis will add up over the weeks and the months and the years, and it'll define their careers, and it will define them as individuals. So that's the message I give the new
Yeah.
officers.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, viewers at home, if you have any more questions for Chief Moore, he'd be happy to hear from you. His contact information is listed on your screen, and you can always find it on our website as well. Thank you, Chief Moore, for taking the time out of your day,
Thank you much.
talking with us on our show here. Next month, we'll be talking to Shelley and Cullen Slapak from the Parks and Recreation Division about all the fun summer activities going on here in Janesville. In addition to tuning into this program on a monthly basis, there are many ways to stay connected to us. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter. You can receive emails with our press releases and other important notifications, and then you can also receive emergency alerts from the Janesville Police Department. For Park Place Views and the City of Janesville, I'm Andrew Eppen. Thanks for tuning in. Next month, Management Information Specialist Maggie Herdlicka will be returning for Park Place Views. It's been a pleasure to host over the last 10 months and get to know the City of Janesville, Wisconsin's Park Place.
The Interstate 3990 interchange with Wisconsin Highway 11, locally known as Avalon Road, will be reconstructed as part of the I-3990 improvements taking place between now and 2021. Located just south of Janesville, the existing interchange has a standard diamond configuration. Existing traffic patterns of this location include a very high volume of left turns. A diverging diamond interchange, also known as a DDI, is proposed for this location to efficiently handle the high volume of left turns. DDIs allow free-flowing turns when entering and exiting the interstate, eliminating the left turn against oncoming traffic. To accomplish this, traffic temporarily moves to the opposite side of the road as it passes through the interchange. When driving a DDI, motorists proceed through a traffic signal at the entrance to the interchange and simply follow their lane to the opposite side of the highway. Traffic signals, pavement markings, overhead signs, and raised concrete islands will help guide you through the interchange. Both directions of traffic drive on the opposite side of the road before crossing back and resuming their original pattern, similar to a one-way street. Motorists driving east on Highway 11 and intending to head north on I-3990 towards Janesville would drive straight to the first traffic signal. As you approach the signal, notice the lane markings and the signing directing you where to go. Notice traffic from the opposite direction approaching on your right. A diverging diamond interchange is easy for passenger cars as well as large trucks and oversized vehicles to navigate. When the signal turns green, proceed straight ahead and follow the lane markings. Once over the bridge, exit to the left onto I-3990 towards Janesville from the left lane. There are no left turn conflicts in a diverging diamond interchange. For drivers wishing to travel straight through the interchange, simply stay in your lane and follow the lane markings and overhead signs. Similar to a standard interchange, no lane changes or turns are needed. When you approach the signal and it turns green, drive straight through and proceed across the bridge to the second signalized intersection. When you're in between the ramp terminals, it will feel as if you are on a one-way street. As you drive through the interchange, notice traffic turning left onto or from Highway 11 does not need to cross traffic traveling in the opposite direction. This configuration is a clear safety advantage of a diverging diamond interchange. To enter southbound I-3990 from the west, drive in the right lane and follow the pavement markings and signing directing you onto the ramp towards Beloit. This movement is similar to that at a standard diamond interchange. The purple line demonstrates the path that pedestrians would take to navigate the DDI. Pedestrians use the marked crosswalks at signalized intersections and then the walkway and sidewalk on the north bridge to cross the interstate. All street crossings are shorter than at a standard interchange. The yellow lines demonstrate the path that bikes would take to ride through the interchange. Bicyclists will stay to the right side of the road in the designated bike lane, as they would on any roadway. In summary, the diverging diamond interchange is the best choice for the intersection of I-3990 and Highway 11. This configuration simplifies left turn movements, is easy to navigate, and improves safety for roadway users. The interchange is pedestrian and bike friendly and provides better traffic operations than a standard diamond interchange. For more information on the I-3990 project, visit www.i39-90.wi.gov.
Traveling from Madison to Delavan using the Highway 11 Racine Street interchange in Janesville, Wisconsin. Notice the flashing red arrow at the top of the screen, highlighting the path you take when traveling from Madison to Delavan. Driving southbound on I-3990, use exit 175. Keep to the left when the off-ramp divides, and use either lane to enter into the roundabout. As you approach the roundabout, yield to pedestrians and bicyclists in the crosswalk. You must also yield to traffic in all lanes on your left before entering. When it is safe to do so, enter the roundabout and turn left onto East Racine Street. Stay in your lane and continue through the second roundabout. Continue on East Racine Street towards Delavan, Wisconsin. For more information, visit the project website at www.i39-90.wi.gov.
The Interstate 3990 interchange with Wisconsin Highway 26 will be reconstructed as part of the I-3990 improvements taking place between now and 2021. Located in Janesville, the existing interchange has a partial cloverleaf configuration. A diverging diamond interchange, also known as a DDI, is proposed for this location to improve safety and reduce traffic congestion. DDIs allow free-flowing turns when entering and exiting the interstate, eliminating the left turn across oncoming traffic. To accomplish this, traffic temporarily moves to the opposite side of the road as it passes through the interchange. When driving a DDI, motorists proceed through a traffic signal at the entrance to the interchange and simply follow their lane to the opposite side of the highway. Both directions of traffic drive on the opposite side of the road before crossing back and resuming their original pattern, similar to a one-way street. Overhead signs, pavement markings, traffic signals, and raised concrete islands will guide you through the interchange. Motorists driving north on Highway 26 and intending to head north on I-3990 toward Madison would drive straight to the first traffic signal. As you approach the signal, lane markings and signing will direct you where to go. Use the look-ahead left turn lane as you approach the intersection. Notice traffic from the opposite direction approaching on your right. When the signal turns green, proceed straight ahead and follow the lane markings. From the left turn lane, turn onto I-3990 toward Madison. There are no left turn conflicts in a diverging diamond interchange. This configuration is easy for passenger cars as well as large trucks and oversized vehicles to navigate. For motorists wishing to travel straight through the interchange, simply stay in your lane and follow the lane markings and signing. Similar to a standard interchange, no lane changes or turns are needed. When you approach the signal and it turns green, drive straight through and proceed under the bridges to the second signalized intersection. When you are in between the ramps, it will feel as if you are on a one-way street. Notice the traffic turning left onto or from Highway 26 does not need to cross traffic traveling in the opposite direction. This configuration is a clear safety advantage of a diverging diamond interchange. From I-3990, vehicles will proceed down the exit ramp just as they would at a standard diamond interchange. Both right-turning and left-turning vehicles will yield to a traffic signal at the end of the ramp. There are no visible differences for vehicles turning right at this location when comparing a DDI and a standard diamond interchange. Vehicles turning left will wait for the signal to turn green and turn into the closest lanes. This maneuver is similar to turning on to a one-way street. The purple line demonstrates the path that pedestrians would take to navigate the DDI. Pedestrians use the marked crosswalks at signalized intersections and then the sidewalk adjacent to the westbound lanes to travel under the bridge. All street crossings are shorter than at a standard interchange. The yellow lines demonstrate the path that bicycles would take to ride through the interchange. Bicyclists will stay to the right side of the road in the designated bicycle lane as they would on any roadway. In summary, the diverging diamond interchange is the best choice for the intersection of I-3990 and Wisconsin Highway 26. This configuration simplifies left turn movements, is easy to navigate, and improves safety for roadway users. The interchange is pedestrian and bicycle friendly and will provide better traffic operations than the existing configuration. For more information on the I-3990 project, visit www.i39-90.wi.gov.